And it is my privilege to introduce our next speaker, Lisa Verni. And some of you may know Lisa. For those of you who don't, I just want to share a bit about her. Lisa is a seasoned psychotherapist, consultant, writer, dancer, artist, and certified Deeptime leader who loves helping people compose their authentic lives. She's also the creator of Dancing with the Pain, an artistic offering of gratitude and lived wisdom meant to inspire hope, understanding, and peace. Lisa, what you do is so fascinating, and your topic is the same name, Dancing with the Pain. So before we chat about that, I know that you're going to share for a few minutes, about yourself and what this means for you, and take it away.
Okay, are you going to record? Is that?
It's recording as we speak.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Tom and Hasina, for inviting me and including me. I do have some people here who I know, but I'm going to go ahead and just talk for a few minutes and share some things, and then we can discuss. So Sarmeet Kanwal, who some of you know, he's our wise quantum physicist and our poet and colleague and friend. And he told me that I know he's coming on after me, but he told me I could quote him to introduce my topic. And what he said was, quote, "To the extent we identify with our whole, we create peace, harmony, and joy around us. To the extent we ignore, disrespect, or work against our whole, we create suffering, pain, and alienation." He said in our world, but I'd say with ourselves too. Last night, I was on the first Deeptime leadership program meeting, and Steve Martin said something that I'm sure he said before, but I heard it a little bit differently, and I decided to include it today. He said, if we feel stuck, we are probably not identifying with a wide enough context. And I would say, or whole. So we're probably not identifying with a wide enough whole. For quite some time, I felt stuck. I suffer from chronic pain and have a history of depression and PTSD. I've endured periods of grief, self-doubt, fatigue, and discouragement. Unfortunately, I often felt alone and isolated. I didn't feel whole, and I didn't feel connected outside my immediate family and my career. I longed for healing and collaboration. I paid attention to these longings and found my way to both the Deeptime Leadership and Empowerment Program last year and to Katie Morgan's The Ritual course. I'll just take one moment and introduce you to Katie, who's here. Katie, maybe you can wave. Katie Morgan. I'll say more about her in a little bit. And my husband is also here, I should say. Carlo, can you go ahead and wave your hand there? He goes by Didi, and his stage name is Lisa Verni, for those of you who may know him as that. In any case, when we were going through the Deeptime program, I began to connect with the natural world through a number of intersubjective practices. And I began to dance outside in my garden with the whole outside. So if we think about that, I started to connect to the greater world around me. And I'd like to read a very brief poem that I wrote during this time. May We Have This Dance is the name of it. When my mind is disheveled, unmoored, or bereft, I remember Deeptime and head to my garden, to my universe friends. I rub soft lamb's ear between my fingertips and bury my face in Japanese maple. Robins chirp, hooray, she's back. I sway along with crepe myrtle as evergreen enriches my soul. For 17 years, Father's ashes have nourished beloved cherry tree. Now, boughs reach out. May we have this dance. Then I began at the same time, all this was going on at the same time. I took Katie's ritual course. And in the course, we did some exercises and practices. One she's going to do with us at the end of this hour. Well, anyway, I did some body mapping and journaling with my body. And what I discovered was that in addition to my pain, I had a lot of shame about it. I had felt like my pain was my fault. And I had gone through so much grief about it, but I was hard on myself about it, even though I took really good care of myself. And it wasn't like I hid that I was in pain, but I kind of like was a little marginalizing of myself. And through this exercise, I realized, if we go back to what Sarmeet was saying, that here I was kind of ignoring and disrespecting myself. So instead, and through the course, I began to forgive myself and realize I had done the best I could, and my body had offered me so much along the way. And I started to really write and talk to my body differently, with gratitude and compassion, instead of putting my body in timeout, like punishing my body for not being what I wanted it to be, or being frustrated or disrespectful. And so I started to feel more whole instead of fragmented. So here I was feeling whole, and then also being more connected to the outside world and outside people. Back in the Deeptime program, we were finishing module 2, and throughout the course, I had done a lot of writing and reflecting. And I kind of just was done with words. I'm a very verbal person. I love to write. But when I'm dancing and I'm not talking, I feel even more whole. So I said, well, I'm going to, I'm going to do a dance instead of writing anything. And that's how this next dance came about, this first dance, really. And I decided to dance to my husband's version of love. Now, what's very interesting about all of this is that love is an old song. Everyone knows it. I didn't know he was covering this song when he did this record. My husband's a heavy metal musician that's his main band and has been his whole career. But in the last few years, he's done a big band called Lisa Verni and the Cadillac Band. And I didn't really know everything he was up to. And lo and behold, he had done a cover of this song. Well, this song was a song that I played on the guitar. I don't play guitar. I'll leave that up to him. But in 5th grade, we did a special Mother's Day program to which I played the song on the guitar. So it's held a lot of meaning. And when this was videotaped, he had just come off the road. I think it was the first time he went back on the road since the pandemic, like in 3 years. And I put on my dress that I intend to wear for a wedding. And I was shooing everyone away, even though he had just gotten home, because it was time for me to do this video. I was ready. And we just did it. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you. I can share the screen, right? Okay, I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to play. Let's see where it is. I don't see it here. One second. Do you happen to have it, Hasina?
I can get it. I can get it quickly.
I just had it on my screen. Let me see if I can do it.
Okay, let me just have a look at this. Give me a second.
Okay, I have it.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
No, did you do the share screen at the bottom, the green button?
Let me come back.
Okay. So do the green button and
Oh,
then just remember to
okay.
share sound as well. Yeah.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to play it now, okay? And then we can discuss it.
L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore. Said love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. Love was made for me and you.
I'll hand it over to you now.
Okay. Let me just do this, and Tom, I'm bringing you in as well. Oh wait,
So
where's
many
Lisa?
great speakers and things today. Who was it that presented a poem or something earlier about dancing with the tree? One of the plenary sessions. It was just a couple hours ago.
Oh,
Really?
Anyway,
That's funny.
beautiful. Well done, Lisa. And nice to meet you, Dee Dee.
yeah, that was a beautiful song and a beautiful dance. Great combo. What I found fascinating about this is that when you talked about you write, and I've read some of your writing, it's amazing, it's beautiful. It's just art, and I can't stop reading when I'm reading one of your blogs or something like that. And then you talked about dancing. And I think for everyone here, you know, a lot of people think about, they just think about one thing. If they find there's something, like for me, it's also writing. You find you something, and then you think that's it. And it doesn't have to be. Like dancing, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, could probably give one something else, a different facet than what writing gives. So can you speak to that a bit?
Well, for me, dancing is the connective tissue to everything. It connects me, it connects me to the universe, it connects me to other beings, it connects me to other artistic pursuits. In fact, today I was outside and I almost changed what I was going to do because I was dancing to a close friend of mine. She's coming out with a record and I've just been in love with her music and I've been dancing to it in my garden. And I was just in bliss. You know, talk about peace, like just peace. And I kind of get my instructions from the universe while I'm dancing. Sometimes I'll start texting people because I'll have ideas while I'm doing it.
It's wonderful.
And I've lived here for 20 years and it was the first year I went out and danced in the garden. I've been dancing, you know, even though I've been in pain, I've always danced. I'm not a dancer. But I've just loved moving to music, any kind of music, depending on my mood.
Yeah. I'm just reading in the chat, Bridget Wolf, I'm a singer, songwriter, pianist, and love this arrangement of the wonderful song Love, which I have sung. Just had to read that.
Oh, tell us more, Bridget.
Oh, okay. Shamima, can you unmute Bridget, please? Okay, you're unmuted, Bridget. Oh, wait.
Still been a good job for us.
I'm in a shared office space, so it's
to separate out enough for us to see them.
They may be hearing me on their other microphone in another Zoom room. So if you can hear me okay, I just want to share that. Thank you for the reminder of movement. It was so inspiring to see you move out in nature.
Stage one.
And I'm going to do some of that today in the wooded lands from this inspiration. And I love the inspiration to get messages from the universe, you know, in that full embodied way. So that's what I'd like to share right now from my heart with gratitude.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Tom, I'll open up to you so you can share your thoughts too.
I didn't see if Tara was grinning at the same time I was grinning, but when you said that music was the dancing was the connective tissue of the universe, just in our previous session, we were talking about what is the magic transformational thing, right? And I went through a couple of things. What is the transformation of spirit to matter? What is the transformation of fascia, of motion to muscle? And so I have a particular spiritual relationship with fascia, and you put video to that. Brilliant.
Well, fascia tissue is where I feel my pain. So, you know, I've studied that an awful lot, thought about that a lot. And I think when I'm moving, I'm breathing, I'm in me, I'm fully in me, and I'm fully connected. I literally feel like I dance with my eyes closed a lot, but a lot of times I feel like I'm levitating.
Beautiful. Okay, let me ask you this then. What did you say that, did you use the word ease or serenity? You said your space of creativity.
I'm not sure.
I forget, but it was when you're in ease, you're motivated or you're inspired. Isn't it interesting how we sometimes lose words when the feeling is so rich? There are so many different ideas just embedded in your several sentences there. So for me, there is a yin yang, yeah, and in autonomic balance, there's a sympathetic, parasympathetic, and in that, how do you get from spirit to matter? In the interface, there is the pause between the inhale and the exhale, and neither is work, right? The inhale is, quote, the work of consumption, and the exhale is the, quote, work. Do you have a sense of can you speak to that, your feeling about the fascia and your feeling of balance in music, in motion, in music versus other times of the day? Do you have a distinction, a feeling for that?
Well, there's a couple of things. I'm seeing my colleague and healing partner and woman who's taught me a lot about this right there, Katie, grinning about that space because she knows about that space. And I'm going to ask you if it's okay with Tom, if Katie maybe can speak, but I want to say one more thing, that it's been really fascinating to be married to Carlo, otherwise known as Didi, because when I'm around him, my pain goes away too. And given that he's a musician, there's something in his frequency. He's a bass player by, it's his main instrument. And there's just something about my frequency that grounds. I don't totally understand that, but that's how I do understand it. So I wanted to say that part too. But before I say anything further, Katie, can you jump in and respond to what Tom was saying, if that's okay, Tom? Because she's taught me about this space, and I can say more about how I experience it, but I'll go ahead and let her speak.
Yeah, we've had many a conversation about this idea of the space between things. And before I really was open to a healing journey of my own, there was a concept in school. I was an English major. There was a concept in a book that I had read by Louise Erdrich. She's a Native American author. And it was actually a German word used, Zwischenraum. And Zwischenraum is one word that denotes the phrase for this concept, the space between. And I was fascinated by this, not just because of the Dave Matthews song too, but this idea of what lies in the space between. How malleable is the space? What can we do with it? How do we fill it? How is it interpreted? How is it in our control, out of our control? And it was something that really fascinated me. So I found a lot of, as a yoga instructor, a lot of questions surrounding this in my journey with my own breathwork practice. What happens between the inhale and the exhale? What is gained? What is released? So we've woven that into the work that we've done together, Lisa and I have. And I think that comes out in the dancing and the writing and our long talks that we could have for weeks at a time, and in our movement in the form of yoga as well.
Wow, that's so beautiful. If I can just interject, Katie, when you said the space in between, just Monday at the beginning of Peace Week, I did a yoga practice where I invited people to experience the space between as they move from pose to pose, the journey, as opposed to the, little full stops.
Yes, I love that. I love that. It's what happens in that present moment. It's not the pose we were leaving and the pose we're going to. Mm-hmm.
For me, to go back to my experience of dancing, what's happened is that the way I feel when I'm dancing has now become more of the way I feel all the time. And I can always locate myself when I'm dancing. I can get back into me. It is a place of no space or time. That's how I experience it. I don't know, again, if that's how you view that with what your knowledge base, Tom, you know?
Oh, forget my knowledge base. It's Hasina and I were joking last week about I need a lobotomy. I think we all, part of the freedom is to let go of our previous constructs, you know, our previous understandings of the thing. When you say locate, do you mean you're viscerally comfortable, or
Yes,
is that an
I am.
emotional stability kind of?
I just feel, I feel, in fact, and this has been happening just recently, and I told Katie this too. I've become aware, well, certainly not just recently, but I became aware that the trees are looking for me too. And I have a relationship with every plant now. There's an interaction I'm having, and I feel that my cells, the cellular energy, is there's no differentiation. It's just one between me and everything. When I'm in that space, I'm really aware of that. So it just feels like ultimate freedom, and peace. And there's so much I'm learning as I'm dancing. Like one day I was in pain. It's not like I'm not in pain when I'm dancing. I am in pain, but it's not part of my consciousness when it's gone. It's displaced. It's the best way of describing it. And I decided to follow the shape and form of the trees, each one of them. Like the cherry tree is old and ancient, and to just move my body that way. Or the roses Sharon have flowers. They're really, really tall, 2 stories tall, and they have flowers at the top. So to stretch my body and to move my body, like there's a playground nearby, right next door, actually 2 doors down, and the children are playing out there all the time. And I feel like, well, I'm playing out there too. I'm playing in my garden.
I think
Familiar.
that, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Tom. I think that it's so amazing you sharing this, because there's so many people when I read about dancing, and I think I related to you, I hadn't had a chance to go to your website yet and just read up on it, so I had no context. But when a lot of people think of dancing, you're thinking of, you know, some kind of trained formal dancing, and you're dancing for you. And it's so easy to feel when watching your videos that you have this peace and serenity. And so when you're dancing for you, I think the message there for other people is that you can just dance. It's not about anyone else. It's not about you, anyone's interaction with, you know, or their feelings of you. It's just you excluding the white noise, like you said, your relationship with the trees, with nature, which I think is so beautiful.
And you know, that happens to be a happy song. There's a couple of other songs on my website that are different. One is Evolve, to Ani DeFranco's song Evolve, and that one is meant to express my evolution. And there's another one, this right here, that talks just being in the moment. But if there's other angst for me to get out, I mean, I do love my husband's heavy metal music too. So I will put that on and I will get that out too. So the frustration or the angst, the anger, the, you know, just, that'll come out too. It won't all just be, you know, I don't think the road to peace is always just through love. Sometimes we have to get that more destructive feelings out so we can be back to our love. Bridget's giving me the thumbs up on that one.
We just had a very rich conversation before Tara's meditation. She was part of a very rich conversation about looking ourselves in the mirror and, you know, not running from the thing and being able to call the entire spectrum of experience God, right? Do you ever, you probably resonate with Dee Dee's music. Do you ever listen to anything that you don't like and try to have an experience and a relationship with that, the thing that you don't like?
No.
No.
I would say that music definitely moves me. Most music moves me. I'll start moving. There's a person or two in the on this call right now. I was invited to join a dance group a number of years ago now called Cora Fire. And it's a dance ministry, and it's a group of women who were together for, I think, 12 or 14 years before I joined them. It's an interfaith group. And when I first joined them, it really, and I should say this, that because I do credit them with this, that I had come out of really bad depression, barely wanted to leave my house. And I went back to the Unitarian Universalist congregation, and I was told about this dance group. And I thought, boy, this is divine intervention, because I love to dance. And here's a group of women that dance. But I've been in solo private practice as a therapist for, decades. So I've been fairly isolated that way in terms of the collaboration. So to be part of a group where I'm not leading it, it was really pleasurable. I didn't know what to expect at first. And they know this story. And I thought, as I was going into it, I thought, I wonder what this will be like. And I imagined that it would be like playing with my girlfriends on the playground when we were kids, jumping rope or something. And when they did this dance called All This Joy, All This Sorrow, which I've come to know is the dance of Cora Fire. And I was the only one sitting in front of the stage. And they did this dance, and in the middle of the dance and at the end of the dance, they come to the end of the stage, and there's a part where they say, all this love, and they wrap their arms around themselves, and they look at me. I wasn't expecting this. So I look at them looking at me with this love just pouring off. We were in the earth room of the Unitarian Church. It was just pouring love off the stage to me. And they saw that I got it, and I saw them, and I got to dance with them, and I danced with them. And it's the experience is always changes my energy, as it does with myself. It's the best antidepressant. It's it's the best nourishment. It just cleanses and promotes just wide awake. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky.
I'd like to ask you, what what inspired your poem that you read at the beginning.
Well, that poem is a distillation of, if you were on my website, if anybody read the story Abundance, which talks about arriving in St. Thomas and a storm happening and me being like a wreck. So over time, I distilled that poem, and the poem I wrote, there was a point in time where Jennifer from the Deeptime Network asked us to write mini love stories about the universe or about the program. I don't know if any of you remember that part. And that was supposed to be 75 words or less. So I distilled that longer essay to that poem, but there was so much redundancy in the poem. I mean, it just has served me in so many different ways. Even today, I'm out there and I'm dancing, and the cherry tree hits me in the head. So I reach up, and I dance with it. And remember, my father's ashes are under there, right? And I've since put my aunt's ashes in under there her past birthday. And I'm thinking of all of you because I know we're going to talk. So I'm already connected. That's where it came from.
It's beautiful.
I do think, in reading the core needs, I did review that in Peace Week, and we do have to have peace in our own hearts. I often say to people that I work with in my practice that we talk about empathy for other people. And, why doesn't someone understand me, or why is someone doing that? Or, there's hurt, or there's harshness. And what I tell people is that we can't have empathy for other people until we have it for ourselves. And in order to get to empathy, we have to feel our own pain. And many people, all of us, have our defenses against that, where it's locked up in our bodies. So when we can uncover that, and work through that, and feel our own pain, then we can have empathy for what other people are going through.
That was resonating for me when you were describing mirroring your movements to the different kinds of trees. And today's core need, of course, is structure, right? And safe structure. We were doing the cell membrane dance earlier today. So we're talking about fluidity, and in my world, it's got to do with lipids, bioavailable fatty acids, and the sterols that are the building block for those for membranes for every tissue. And I was thinking you had I forget how you said it. You had their attention. You had the how did you say? Anyway, you had the attention of the plant, right? And so the plant can see you, and you're resonating together, and you are sacredly connected there to its sterols, and all of a sudden, and then that's why you forget your pain. Or there's this in a growth and development program I worked with years back, we had a phrase, dancing in the conversation. And it was about being with what you were just illustrating, which is, being with hard topics or painful topics, seeing it, having compassion for the idea that there's always a through, there's always this becoming. And it's such a great gift. Like you bring a great gift, and that's a holographic thing. It's not just your well-being. If the plants are resonating with you and you're helping each other, that is that sense of compassion that you help radiate for the whole planet, right?
And then, I'm privileged to be a psychotherapist because there's more connective tissue there. The dance goes on, both, to and fro. In fact, I do sessions in my backyard. And
Nice.
So, everybody's in on it. In fact, I started to say before, and I came to this through Katie's help too, with really working on my alignment. I should also say I've done a lot of swimming, and I dance in the pool also, which is amazing to be feeling all of that, and then to be in the water and moving with the water and having the buoyancy of that. But what I really got finally was that it's not just me grounding on the earth is grounding to me. The earth is leaning into me. The air is, swirling around me. And then, when I'm in this flow, which is more and more, and I trust myself more, because the other thing I really haven't said here is that my showing myself, even though I know that I can speak well, I've been talking, with my clients for how long. So, I have a lot of practice, but I've also been hurt a lot in life. And so to reveal myself this way was very, very scary for me, probably up until about a year ago. And when I was in the middle of the course, what happened was with Katie that I realized that this pain is central. All this pain is central, but it's also universal. I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. Mm-hmm. And so just as I felt the calling to be, I feel called to do the work I do as a therapist, but I felt like by being me, being myself would help others be themselves. I really strive for authenticity. And it's scary. People can hurt us. We can be hurt.
Thank you for being.
Go ahead. I just had an aha moment as you were saying that, discussing the whole thing. There's a saying where you're telling someone to come to the point, and you're saying, well, don't dance around it, the whole thing. Don't dance around it. Just say what you mean. Go straight to the point. And I've always, my truth is that and you probably know this about me, I'm a straightforward person, right? As you were talking about dancing, I was thinking to myself, dancing is the growth. And it's not so much as someone who's dancing around the truth and not saying something directly, but it's enabling, freeing yourself to be able to reach that point of truth where you know how you feel, where you know how your aligned self feels. And that was such an aha moment, because why don't we give ourselves the space to just dance with it a little bit, and then just see how do I feel, how does that resonate with me? Free oneself from indoctrination and lessons and what I've been told and all the white noise and the comments and opinions, and then say, let me dance with all of these things, and how does it feel for me? And then coming back to center and saying, I know the contrast of how it doesn't feel right for me. And now I'll come back to center, and I know how I feel, and I know my truth. So thank you.
And I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel safe with you guys.
It's beautiful.
Do you want to ask if anyone has questions?
Yes, we can move into that. If anyone does have questions, just raise your hand or put it in the chat. Yeah, we have a few minutes for questions. Okay, I see Nancy has a question. Let me just unmute. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, now that I think of it, I'm 73, and dancing growing up was more memorized, the box step, over with the foot, back with the foot. You know, everything had, you had to, the jitterbug, toe, heel, step, step. I even went to dancing school. Our neighbor lady across the street taught dancing, and she opened it up to all the school kids. Otherwise, none of us would have learned. So I never learned like freestyle, just improvising with dancing. I associate dancing with memorized steps, and that took the fun out of it. And yeah, I've got to get on the dance floor and just jig around my way, you know? Thank you. This has been fun to just create a new form of fun in my life. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I was just saying to you, Lisa, that it frees everyone listening. And I think it's also the thing about being schooled into something and, you know, just being free-spirited. Right.
I think also I want to say that, you know, for the hard part of my job, my work as a therapist, the hardest part has been the sitting. So the balance of the movement, especially since sitting and I'm listening and I'm thinking, I'm doing a lot of cognitive work, you know, emotional work. My body, my whole being is a tuning fork. All right. So I think that the moving and the dancing is another way of, well, first of all, it restores me, but it also processes things in a non-cognitive way.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I know that you wanted to, if there's nothing that you want to share right now, I know you wanted to introduce Katie.
Yes.
Just let me read the chat quickly. Oh, I love that, Bridget. I'm a highly sensitive person who reacts adversely to Wi-Fi and high voltage power lines. I have found green areas to find healthy areas for me to feel well. Thank you for that. Okay, thank you for that comment. Yeah, and it's amazing how wonderful it is to just find that space, like you found dancing, you know, to your body and your mind or your spirit tells you, you know, what it is you need to do to feel well. Yeah.
I know. I'm really so blessed. And I lived at the Jersey Shore. So I live very close to the ocean, and I'm very connected to my ecosystem spiritually. So let me introduce you to Katie Morgan. Katie is just a terrific person. I'll tell you, she's an educator. She's taught school. She's a writer. She's a trauma-informed yoga teacher, and she's a bereavement group facilitator. She's also going to go to school to become a clinical therapist. So I work with Katie on many levels. As a colleague, I refer people to her. I work one-on-one with her. And she also offers these wonderful courses, and she's going to be doing them again. So I can't say, more good things about you, Katie. I always feel that I'm in capable hands, and you're always fine-tuning. What are we fine-tuning now that I have to put my chin back a little bit?
It's all that dance with alignment.
Exactly. So I'll send it over to you. She's going to offer us something that with what I talked about, that helped me soften my pain to more peace.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so it's funny because quite a few things in this conversation that I've been listening to so far have spoken to some of what I had planned to talk about. So this idea of alignment, of the space between, and most of all, peace. And peace is kind of where, well, not even where, what I was seeking when I kind of started on this journey myself towards healing. And one of the components that I found that was the most instrumental in my own healing, that I now work with clients and colleagues on as well, is this idea of softening into our right now selves, and creating these sacred moments in which to acclimate. So the process of that, I thought I would just talk through really briefly before I leave you with a little brief meditation that we can practice together that speaks to those concepts. So one thing I've discovered is that for me, the path to healing and to tuning in, like Lisa was just speaking to what our right now needs are, is awareness. And awareness for me starts with an invitation to notice, an invitation to notice the surroundings, to notice the breath, to notice the beating of my heart right here and right now, to notice my right now thoughts, notice my right now feelings. And all of those things become sacred just by the fact that they're being noticed. And when we notice them, we name them. And that is the first part of acclimating. If we are to adjust to and adapt to right here, right now, we must be able to look at it and name it before the next step of acclimating would be deciding what to do with that information. So that sacredness of saying, I invite right now awareness, naming it so that we can understand it from understanding, saying, now what? Part of that is, how do we adjust to what we find? Sometimes adjusting might be sitting with in meditation. Maybe that's all that happens. But sometimes adjusting to what we find in the right now moment or the right now breath looks like something similar to movement into or with what we find, like dancing, right? Like writing, like composing, creating, in conversation, all towards peace, acceptance of. When we sit with what we find in our right now self, we seek to do that without judgment, without premeditation of how it should go or feel, but with loving kindness, with looking at what is true here and now without judgment. And when we can do that, and we can work towards acceptance of what it is that we find, the naming of and acceptance of, we are working towards peace. So I'd like to close with a little meditation that Lisa and I use that can help to connect us to the right now moment. Some of it is visual, some somatic in its approach. But I thought I would just take a few moments and ask you if you'd like to participate, to find a comfortable seat. eyes open or closed, wherever you're most comfortable. And we're going to do this same work that I just discussed. So we'll just start with being here and now and recognizing the space that we take up in the room, the confines of the space that we sit within. Noticing our presence in this overall space. Do we feel large or small in this space? Noticing how it feels to perhaps have the eyes closed in this space. Your perception of things without the eyes. Noticing the temperature in the room as it hits the skin, skin covered and uncovered by clothing. All inching our way from external to internal present moment experiences. Noticing now the jaw, whether or not there's tension in the jaw, releasing it perhaps by parting the lips slightly, and inviting the jaw to soften. Observing the jaw's reaction to the invitation without judgment, but with love. Next, noticing the beating of the heart. If you have trouble perceiving it, you can always place a hand over the chest to connect in a deeper way to the beating of the heart. Finding its rhythm. And if you find it necessary to invite it to slow its rhythm, then you may do so. Next, becoming aware of the breath. Not changing or manipulating, just observing the ways in which the breath moves. The origin of the breath in the body. Any barriers to its path through the torso. And the ways in which it takes up space, expanding and contracting. Whether or not it feels soft, whether or not it feels heavy. What color you attribute to the breath here and now. Perhaps spending a few breaths tracing with the mind's eye the path of the breath in the torso. Continuing to move the breath at any pace that feels right for you, and in any way that the body is able to respond here and now. Keeping this movement of breath as a constant, as a companion. We'll turn our mind's eye to the third eye, center of the forehead. Either just perceiving it or bringing a hand towards the head, becoming aware of this space. And allowing this space to become a symbol for all that we hold right now on our cognitive mind. Seeing if you find a monkey mind, swinging from thought to thought, or if the space in the cognitive mind is ebbing and flowing, slow, like lapping waves on the beach. I often like to invite a visual with the breath, something with nature, always seems appropriate. So if you could attribute and relate the current thoughts in your cognitive mind to a field of wildflowers, picture what that field of wildflowers might look like. Not judging if they're overgrown and haphazard, not judging if you feel that they're sparse. their color has faded or if their color is brilliant and bright. Just observing. And honoring whatever you find by taking a deep breath in and a full breath out. Keeping the breath as your constant. I'll invite you with your mind's eye to shift your attention to heart center. Either perceiving of it or placing a hand over the heart. Allowing this to become a symbol for all that we hold on our feeling, emotional hearts. Looking at what we hold and carry on our hearts without any judgment. Seeing what feelings we find and attributing them again to a field of wildflowers. How do our feelings feel to us? In what ways do we perceive them? And in what ways do we relate what we perceive to what we might view in this field? Honoring whatever it is you find in this wildflower field of the heart space by taking a deep breath in and a full breath out. And finally, with the breath as our constant, we shift our attention to the body. Either scanning the body from head to toe with paintbrush, with the eyes, or tuning into one individual part of the body. Either perceiving of the body or placing the hands somewhere. Allowing this body to be the symbol of our soul's connection to this earthly existence. Perceiving how it feels to be a soul in this body here and now, this body that lifts things, that carries things, that experiences illnesses, that lays to sleep, that loves. And perceiving of how it feels to be a soul in this body and relating it to this field of wildflowers. What does this field of wildflowers look like in connection to the body? And I'll invite you to honor whatever it is you found in this field, in this space of our physical experience, by taking a deep breath in and allowing a full breath out. Keeping the breath as a constant and as an invitation to soften into peace. You can begin as you feel ready to allow the eyes to open just a crack, allowing some light in. Fully acclimating to the room of the right now, different than the room when we started. I'd like to thank you for being part of this meditation with me, and thank Lisa for allowing me to share this meditation with you.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
I loved how you said the word invite, and you said it a few different times. So it was a communing with the body, and it was so gentle and yeah, just so sensitively doing it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It does really help me to have a partner like Katie, because, and I guess, you know, as a therapist too, for others to have me, and I've been in therapy, psychotherapy too, but we can't know everything ourselves. You know, it's the same thing with just interacting with other people. We know ourselves through our interactions with others, don't we? People reflect and see different things in us, and yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing your beautiful spirits. That is the essence, Lisa, of humanity as organism thrives, where together we're well
Yeah.
and ever bettering, right? We're better now than we were an hour ago. Thank
Oh, they're my buddies. These are my Cora Fire buddies. Cora Fire people, say hello. Turn your mic
It's
on.
a spotlight here.
This is Lisa and Marie. They are in my Cora Fire dance group, my initiators.
Rose coming.
And Rose there too. You guys want to say anything about your dancing experience yourself?
No, we want to say something about how much we love you and how much we love dancing with you and how much your expression has meant to me.
Yeah.
These were the women who wrapped their arms around me.
Yes, and we
Yes,
still
and
do.
we still do.
They taught me, they saw me and made it safe to be me. And it's very special, very, very special connection, right?
Yeah.
And happy birthday, Marie.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
Marie does Naya. Is it Naya or Nia? How do you say it?
Nia.
You know that, what that is? Yeah. So she has her own practice every day. Right?
Oh, are you talking about NIA, neurointegrative attunement assessment or something? There's a dance, there's a NIA dance that's neural integration, NI something. That's it?
I don't know, it might be connected. It's a group that was formed by Deborah Rosas out of Oregon. She's still leading it. Yeah, it's a I think initially it might have meant non-impact aerobics, but
it's so much more than that.
It is so much more. It integrates 9 different forms of movement into, and then it's choreographed to music. So it's beautiful. It's a nice way to start the day.
Very great. Thank you for bringing your energies here.
Guys, thank you for coming.
Welcome.
We made it.
Have fun.
Thanks.
And
We will. Look behind us.
Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
before we end, I just want to also add Dee Dee here, because I think he wrote that song and he's a part of, you know, what you're doing. I always believe our partners and, you know, our families really hold us up and support us. Often, you know, they don't get the spotlight like my sister Shamima is doing right now. So I just want, instead of just being able to wave in the distance, now everyone can see who you are.
Do you want to, can you turn your mic on, Carlo?
Oh, let me ask to unmute. There we go.
Am I on now? Yes,
Yeah.
I know a lot of those women. I've seen those smiling faces dancing around, and I've been to a bunch of their performances as well. And I know it's deep time and everybody's speaking on a certain level, but my first thought was, doesn't my wife look pretty? That's what I was thinking initially. I'm happy to see her out being herself and dancing, writing, all the things she's always dreamed of doing.
Yes, Carlo and I have been together for, gosh, since we were kids, since we were teenagers, so like over 40 years. And he's been a musician the whole time and has toured all over. And so in the last few years, he's really made it a point to support me in my exploration and creativity. I'm always wanting to collaborate with him, but he likes to do his own thing too. But then here we are again, just naturally, organically, I dance. And so sometimes when he comes into the backyard, I'll put one of my headsets in his ear and we'll dance to the song together, because he doesn't dance. He doesn't think he can dance, but he's just the bass player who makes all the beats, right? So we get each other, even if he's not dancing, we feel the same things. And he's pretty deep time himself. Don't let him fool you. But thank you. And we'll see what we go from here, what we do from here.
We'll check back in a year and see how you're doing.
Exactly.
Oh, I think you'll check back before that. Yeah, we got some stuff to do together, I think. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Y'all have a great afternoon.
Okay, bye.